We were talking last hour about the new appointee for Harris's campaign. She's a global warming extremist that says if you are in the oil and gas business at all, you're a terrorist. You're an eco-terrorist. She is somebody who is so extreme on global warming. She doesn't like capitalism. She doesn't like oil and gas or anything like that. So why would she join the Kamala Harris campaign, leave Bernie Sanders' legislation team, and go and be the spokesperson on ecological issues? Why would she join Kamala Harris? Because an extremist would say she's changing everything she's doing. She's saying she's not going to even go after fracking anymore, that she's going to approve new oil leases. She's
opposed to the Green New Deal.
Right. She's a traitor to everything I believe. That's what she should say, but she didn't. She joined on and then said, no, Kamala has really changed her mind. She's not going to do any of those things. Okay? You have to ask why. Why? So we went into that yesterday. Now or earlier today, let me go into the education czar. What's his exact title?
It is. He's actually one of the people helping implement the framework or curriculum for the new ethnic studies standards in the state of Minnesota.
Okay. Remember, you were told by the propaganda machine that CRT is nothing. First of all, it's not anything. It doesn't even happen.
Didn't exist initially.
Doesn't exist. We're not even doing that.
Just a bunch of academics talking, and we got to that phase.
Correct. Then we got to, okay, it's in there, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. It's totally harmless. Now, we don't even talk about it anymore. Remember, this came in under Biden-Harris. This came into our schools. They didn't dare release it under Donald Trump, but they put it into our schools after the election. Now, what does it mean? Well, it certainly doesn't mean an end to the United States of America. That's what Tim Walz would say. Then if that's true, why would he hire this guy?
His name is Brian Lazinski. He is a associate professor of urban and multicultural education in St. Paul. He was helping with not just the ethnic studies, but also the social studies standards, citizenship and government, economics, geography, history, and now ethnic studies. Okay. This comes from Stanley Kurtz, by the way, did a great job reporting on this. Amazing. Let me give you now his thoughts on CRT and what its role is in the schools, but also what it actually means and what he believes about it.
And we're also sometimes lying on ourselves when people say like, oh, we use critical race theory in school. We don't use critical race theory in school. The first tenet of critical race theory is that the United States as constructed is irreversibly racist. So if the nation state as constructed is irreversibly racist, then it must be done with. It must be overthrown, right? Oh. And so we can't be like, oh, no, critical race theory is just about telling our stories and divert. It's not about that. It's about overthrow. It's insurgent. And we need to be, I think, more honest with that. And it's funny that they don't understand critical race theory, but they actually tell some truth when they're like, yeah, it is anti-state. You can't be a critical race theorist and be pro-U.S. Okay, it is an anti-state theory that says the United States needs to be deconstructed, period. Right? Like that's, and so I think it's an interesting argument there, and that's why I'm a critical race theorist.
Oh, that's why he's a critical race theorist, because the overthrow of the government and the insurgency and all. Now, you might say if you had a picture taken with you at a party with this man, you're going to deny that. You're going to denounce him.
I had no idea who that guy was.
No idea who that guy was. Think about the prospect of not only associating yourself with him, but also promoting him to design the curriculum for the students of Minnesota. This guy is out there. He's a teacher. He's a football coach, a hunter. He's America's dad. That's what you just heard is who Tim Walz actually is. What he's telling you is that he's America's dad. But that's who he really is. That's what he wants. His education department chose that guy to design your kids' classes.
So the first thing to avoid propaganda is to constantly ask why and be willing to accept the truth. So there are so many Democrats right now that won't accept that. Why? Because they'll hear it from me or they'll hear it from Fox News. So it's a convenient way just to dismiss it. But there's the audio of the guy, Tim Walz, put in charge of the history and critical race curriculum in Minnesota schools.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think what's so important about propaganda wars is we want to equip people with the ability to figure out these things on their own. Okay. Right. We don't want people just relying on shows like this. We need people to become trusted sources of information in their own lives. Teach people how to be citizen journalists. This is what we desperately need. And what you find when you go to the original sources over and over and over again, what we discovered and what we outline in this book is that there is a propaganda industrial complex, that it goes well beyond just what's in the media. That there is a vast network of left-wing groups and big money organizations and others, many of whom people listening to this show, as active listeners as they may be, have never heard of some of these organizations.
Yep.
Now, you brought up the education thing. This is really interesting. So in the first chapter of the book, where we just talk about how screwed up everything is, it's called Welcome to Clown World. We talk about this nonprofit organization called Education Trust West. That's the name of it, Education Trust West. They are one of these people that believe that there's all this racism inherently in mathematics. They believe that public education has a responsibility to inject social justice ideology into every subject, including mathematics. They said, and this is a direct quote, that not this first part of it isn't the direct quote, but finding the correct answer to a math problem is, quote, white supremacy culture, unquote. Now, they've been distributing these workbooks all over the country, in California, in Georgia, in Ohio. Are those far left-wing states? California is, but not Georgia and Ohio. These things are everywhere. Now, we get into who these major players are, not just these kinds of organizations, but who's funding them. Where do they get their money? Because they're not selling these books out to the public. Well, they just so happen to get their money from a little organization, just a tiny little one most people have never heard of, called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So they're pumping all this money into these textbooks that are teaching kids at the local level that racism is everywhere. Yeah. You're a white supremacist if you're trying to get people to find the right answer. This is everywhere. And so what you have to do, and what we try to show people in this book, is that you have to find the sources of the misinformation. It's not just enough to say, well, that's crazy. That's the kind of thing that happens in Portland. Well, yeah, it does happen in Portland. But it's also happening in Ohio. It's also happening in Georgia. And it's because these organizations exist everywhere. The network is vast. George Soros and people like that are pouring hundreds of millions and billions of dollars worldwide into these kinds of efforts. And if you don't know who they are, you don't know what to look out for.
So one of the biggest questions that I have gotten over the years, and I hear it asked very seldom now, and I wonder why, used to be, why would these people do this? Why would Bill and Melinda Gates do this? Why would they teach that math is racist? Because you have to now start to think unlike Americans used to think. Americans used to think, well, we all want what's best. You now have to understand what the elites think is best for them, not for you. They are teaching our children to be slaves. They are teaching them not to ask questions. Let me ask you, if you believe that math is racist, therefore I don't really have to do it, it's racist to ask me to do it, it's racist for me to try to figure it out on my own, How do those people build bridges? How do those people even measure a wall to make a house? How do you do the basic stuff that you have to do if you can't do math? Elon Musk, what he did, it already kind of looks like magic to me, but I know it's all based in science. But if I find out that science and mathematics is racist, I can't do what I can't even explain what Elon Musk is doing. It does become magic. These people are training a whole continent, in fact, the whole world, the Western world, to be slaves. You cannot think for yourself. Why would they do that? Because they have control. They want the money. They want the power. And they actually believe, and so do I in many ways, that if they control AI, they win. Once they control AI, and Putin has said this, whoever gets it first controls the world. They're putting all of their eggs in that basket. And we, unfortunately, have been saying to ourselves, you know what, AI, why even learn that? AI is going to teach you. You can just go online and just say, hey, how do I build a bridge? And it will show you. So why do I even have to learn math? Why do I have to learn to read when I can just say, AI, what does this say? What is that about? Can you write a paper on that for me? We're being taught to rely not on technology, on those who control the technology.